Hello and welcome back to the Facts of Facts, the only Facts of Life podcast that was very nearly broken by this movie. The worst thing I've ever had to do.
You know, we've been in lockdown and we have had, global racial strife. And, I preferred focusing on learning more about that and, learning more about COVID-19 than engaging with this. This is so horrible. I've never experienced any piece of art that is this in my life. This is so bad and so offensive that it should be destroyed. All copies removed, destroyed, pull down these monuments to this piece of shit. It's exactly like that fucking Jerry Lewis movie that is about the Holocaust clown. That is a notorious thing that no one can get their hands on because it's so bad. This is that. I can't believe this exists.
That was beautiful. That I think we need to get that viral.
So here's the thing. This movie seemed to me as though it was a movie that was written by someone who never learned how to write a screenplay, but also had never even been to France or Paris and asked someone who had only read a guidebook to tell them what it was like there.
You're not wrong, and it's perfect segue into saying who wrote this. Obviously, it was directed by Azad Collado.
Yes,
with the skill of
a dead
Azad
person.
Collado.
Literally a corpse could have directed this better. I felt like I was watching The Weekend at Bernie's guy direct this.
Bernie,
the dead guy. It was so bad, and it was like so much B-roll.
Bernie's guy.
It was so much B-roll with just random voiceover.
I mean,
I can't believe that they invested money and time and came out with this fart. It's so bad. And I watched it 1.5 times. I watched the first half months ago, and then I was like, I can't do this. I can't. And then I watched it again today and yesterday. And it's like I'm shaking with anger.
Do you know who wrote it?
Yeah, our favorite two people.
No, everybody.
Oh, everybody.
This was written by our executive writers room. This was all of the greats. This was Jerry Mayer. This was Jack Ellenson. This was Linda Marsh, Margie Peters, Deirdre Fay, and Stuart Wolpert. All of the people who make all the worst episodes.
Yeah, so I wrote down, I just wrote down, this is my last thing that I wrote down on a single piece of paper, saying everyone involved in this should disavow it, apologize publicly, and be forced to do community service to atone for this atrocity.
You're not wrong.
I'm never going to get this time back. This is the worst film I've ever seen, and I've seen the notoriously bad horror movie, Cannibal Holocaust, which had literal animals being murdered on set. This was worse.
All right. Worse than watching animals be murdered for entertainment.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm surprised to see that Jack Ellenson made the cut of the executive writing room. Because he only was credited as writing The New Girl Part 2 and Brian and Sylvia.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Ooh, Brian and Sylvia. That was a solid.
Yeah, so he wrote those two, and then he will write one episode in 1986.
Okay.
So
he
does
was
nothing
brought
else.
back. Okay.
I don't know if he was just like the old guy in the writer's room being like, and just like, I've got enough money, I don't need an episode, it's fine. But he wrote this episode in 86 where Tootie becomes the agent for a budding stand-up comedian.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Is it Cousin Jerry?
No. But this guy worked. He had a steady career. He wrote over 100 Danny Thomas Show episodes,
Oh.
and he went over to Andy Griffith, and then Hogan's Heroes, and then Gomer Pyle, and the Doris Day Show, Good Times, One Day at a Time, and then he got on Facts of Life, and then he developed 227 after this.
Well, thank God for that. At least we have that.
I love 227.
Yeah.
And then his last thing that he did was he wrote on one episode of New Attitude, and I'm assuming you don't know what New Attitude is.
No, I don't know what
So
that is.
it's every gay boy my age's favorite thing. It's
Not
like a
this
fever
show?
dream.
Not this show we're talking about right now that I've invested 3 years of my life into?
No, more gay boys love this more than New Attitude. But if anybody caught New Attitude, it lasted only 13 episodes. You wish that we were doing a New Attitude podcast, because we'd be long done.
That could be our micro pod.
So it was set at a beauty salon, and it starred Cheryl Lee Ralph and Morris Day of the time. And Morris Day was a flamboyantly gay hairdresser, and it was amazing. It was such a good show. Anyway, not worth getting into. But if anybody hasn't seen a New Attitude, it was a TGIF black 9:30 comedy. So it was like the 9:30 comedies were always switching in and out with different stuff, hoping for something to hit, and then they'd move it to a better time slot. And it didn't hit, but it was so good.
It was on ABC.
It was on ABC and Friday nights, and I remember watching it. My parents would go out on like Friday night dinner, and my grandma would babysit, and we would just watch TGIF. And I remember that happening a couple of times during the New Attitude era. And my grandma was like, "This show's good." I was like, "Yeah, it's solid."
So it's gay boys and grandmas.
Yeah.
Gay boys and grandmas. That's their core.
So apparently this movie that we were watching was made because apparently the show was getting a lot of fan letters from France. And so thank the French kids of early 1980s, because that's why we're doing this right now.
So going back to Jerry Lewis, notoriously, the French love Jerry Lewis, and they clearly have no sense of humor, because this is the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, yes,
and
we can
also,
definitely.
Also, my heart broke when they visited Shakespeare and Company at the end, the bookshop, because that's a very iconic, wonderful place. And I can't believe that Shakespeare and Company was like, yes, we want you to shoot here. Yes, please.
That
please.
broke your heart.
It broke. I was like, who can I write an angry letter to about this?
They didn't know how bad this movie was going to be.
It was the best scene. It was very poignant.
Yeah, there was some poignancy towards the end with Joe.
That only Joe. Joe is the only
Joe.
one who got a normal arc, because she had to learn to love books rather than race cars. That was her arc.
That was not her arc. Her arc was that she had to learn to love dick other than race cars.
No, she loved Mons.
Oh, yes. Le Mans.
Yes.
All right. So the girls are rushing through the airport. Let's get started into this, unless you have something else to say, which I'm sure you have.
I just wanted to start this off with, airports, get my engines going! Which Mrs. Garrett shrieks in a crowded hallway. They do an exterior. Thankfully, they're not this lazy and bad. They do an exterior of the very famous TWA terminal in JFK, which is in New York. They are rushing through LAX. That is an iconic hallway. It is in Mad Men. It was in Airplane. It was in a movie called Point Blank, which stars Lee Marvin. And that movie is really wonderful because he throws a fully nude man off a roof.
Gotta love that.
Yeah.
I've been that man.
It's iconic. Like, if you don't recognize that hallway, then you've never been to Los Angeles. And the interior is clearly LAX too.
What are you gonna do? They were happy to get an airport. Yes, I wondered if the airports get her motor running was continuity, since she has her pilot's license. And that's
but she can't make a fucking souffle or any French food, and seems to have lost the concept of how to cook in France. and it's too complicated to make lobster thermidor, which is what she's making, but she can fly an airplane. So she knows engineering, but not how to cook. And then, okay, keep going.
Yeah. Well, this is like the part where they already lose me, like instantly. They're trying to do sitcom timing without a laugh track. So like they have these like pauses for like you to laugh at home. And it's so painful. Like,
is that why it was 90 minutes long? Because of all those fucking pauses? It could have been 45 minutes without the pauses.
I know. Well, you're right. I mean, and also the exteriors. There was like, it could have been a half hour. I mean, and also Blair's plot was walking.
No, here's how this goes down. So, first of all, I could not believe that the way that they set this up is that they're like, we're all going to go to Paris, but we're not going to spend any time together. We're also going to weirdly make it a whole month or month and a half of not showing anything but the last 4 days of them being
weird.
there.
Such a weird choice.
Why not just send them there for a week? Make that the movie. Why put in this whole weird dumb subplot of them being at, Miss Havisham's school for the errant bad French children that they need to escape for no reason? Why not just
because
hang out with
75 people were writing this episode and they were all probably fighting and on cocaine about what should happen, and they were like, let's just do it all.
Yeah, that is what it felt like. It was like they were like the network gave them notes and they were just like, no, we're not taking any of these notes. We're doing everything.
That painful joke about how they're going to be there in 18 short hours, no 16 short hours, no, like, nobody needs this.
No, and also here's the other thing is that it's like they were clearly doing the showing that Blair's the one with all the luggage and Joe's a nervous flyer and Natalie has all the games and snacks and Tootie holds boarding passes.
Well, no, yes, because Natalie was trying to eat her boarding pass.
Yeah, because she's the fatty who can't be trusted to have a boarding pass without wanting to eat it.
But she's got an entire selection of gum.
She's got a lot of gum. She's the Sean Spicer of this group. Yes. I texted you that being like, because you said she's got all the gum. And I said, yeah, all the gums like Sean Spicer. And you said, what? And I said, he notoriously, like, you were like, oh, I have to Google that. Yeah, he eats 35 pieces of gum per day before noon.
So it was the sort of thing that where the news, it came out on the news, and then Melissa McCarthy did it on Saturday Night Live like 2 days after it came out on the news. And then I never thought about it ever again. So, yes, you're absolutely right. I love that your brain was able to go there, but no, that was a deep cut. This administration has lost so many people that I've been able to delete from the records of my brain.
Right.
That, at least their quirks and foibles.
And the thing is that so they finally get to Paris, right? And Mrs. Garrett, Mrs. Garrett basically is like, yeah, we're not going on vacation together. Like, we're not doing this together. You're doing your thing and you're doing your thing. And I don't want to see you. And if I get any time off from this very difficult cooking school, I'm spending it alone because you have gotten on my last nerve. Also, they made it a concerted effort to sex Mrs. Garrett up in this episode or this movie. And her hair, what happened? Her hair it's so low and small. It looks both wet and very dry. It's like this weird, it's a paradox.
It is, her hair is crazy there, and her hair gets like a scene to be showcased, which was a startling, astonishing scene, which we will get to. But before we do get to Paris, we should talk about that guy that's trying to fuck Blair.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That random guy that she just shoos away saying, no, you can't sit next to me. I'm waiting. I'm going to Paris to fall in love with a French boyfriend. I need a French boyfriend, not an American piece of shit like you.
Yes, she needs French clothes, French perfume, and French cock. Those are the three things she needs.
Yep.
Nice and uncircumcised.
Yes.
So here's the thing. That guy that hit on her was actually Emmy Award-winning actor, writer, director John Lindstrom, who recently rocked the most recent season of True Detective as Jacob McCandless, but also has filmed nearly 500 episodes of the soap opera As the World Turns and The Bold and the Beautiful. But this was his very first role ever.
Well, congratulations to him.
You're going to get a lot of those. Tootie and Natalie are extra annoying today. Tootie does not want Joe to read all her magazines now. She's got to save some for the plane. And Nat's got like half a Toys R Us in her purse.
Natalie is literally the worst person to travel with. She was written. I thought that Tootie was going to throw her off the Eiffel Tower. I actually thought we were going to visit the Eiffel Tower. No. We see it from a bus.
What else do you need? It's just for seeing. You want to take some quirky photos where you make it not lean or like you're kind of holding on to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
And the other thing is that consistent with all other facts of life, aside from the fact that we actually do go to Paris in this, whenever you talk about something, nope, we never see it. We never see it. Do we see the cemeteries that they are constantly going to? Do we see the Louvre? Do we see Le Mans? Nope. We see nothing. We see nothing. We almost didn't even see Paris because they went to that school.
That's very true. We see a couple of things.
Yeah, a couple. It's as though they spent 2 days shooting. And the other great thing is that it's
30
clear,
seconds writing.
But the other great thing is that it's clear that much like the purported Facts of Life reunion during the Christmas movie that we watched, You Light Up My Christmas with Kim Fields, that was going to be a reunion, and nobody was in the same place at the same time. Nobody was shooting at the same time in this. Everyone was apart the whole time. I don't understand. What the fuck were they doing? This is their only job.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me that they just decided to like separate everybody. Their plots were miserable on their own, I thought.
All of them were bad.
Yeah, all of them are bad. I thought all of them are bad, but I actually felt emotion from Joe's at the very end when I was mad at it the whole time, and everything else was terrible.
So here's my question: do we ever hear from this French boyfriend again? Do we ever see him? Is he ever mentioned in the beginning of the next season? Is it like, oh, I miss my boyfriend, David?
One character from this movie does show up in season 4, comes visiting from Paris, and references their time.
And?
Guess.
Pierre.
Who is Pierre? Which one is Pierre?
Mrs. Garrett's slam piece.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. All the names are not fresh in my head. It's the chef.
Oh, Chef Augustin, or whatever the fuck his name is?
Yeah, whatever his name is.
The mean one
Yes.
Who's like, oh my God, your sauce is a revelation.
Exactly. I'm going to, in fact, put up the IMDb for this movie on I have 2 computers up here. And I'm going to get the IMDb up just so I can, because there's just too many names. They're all French. I watched this very stoned. I don't know what to tell you guys. I also watched this a while ago, and so some things will be less fresh. But can we just talk about the lovely score and the shots of the airplane over the credits?
Well, okay. I literally wrote down, oh my God, is there going to be constant accordion music? And it was pretty constant.
Yeah, I love the score, and I thought that this song, the opening credits really sets the tone for this.
Okay, so they get to Paris, they get to Charles de Gaulle Airport, and Mrs. Garrett's like, she's like, I can't take any more of you. I'm not hanging out with you. The hotel is sending a private car, and I'm just like, how's that for class? You know? And it's like, oh, it's a limo, whatever. Tootie says it's a limo. And then the world's tiniest car speeds up to the curb, like at rocket fuel speed.
Mm-hmm. It's like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Yes, it is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, which is actually one of my favorite rides. I rode it when I was in Disneyland last time. Anyway, and it's a tiny car speeds up with a sign saying Hotel Le Petit Ritz. So the tiny Ritz, which I Googled, doesn't exist.
It doesn't, but there is a close thing.
It is close. But I do have to say though that this is again shows the writers' laziness because they're like, what should we name this hotel? Hotel Le Petit Ritz. Little only hotel, French hotel I can think of.
Yes, agreed. It was the laziest name possible. So I googled the Hotel Le Petit Ritz. There's one without the Ritz on it. It's just Le Hotel Le Petit.
So little hotel.
Yes, but it's famous and it's adorable, and they have a passive aggressive guy responding to all their reviews, good or bad. Even if you say something's like great, and they're like, "Wish we had fresh fruit, but it was the best hotel I ever." It would be like, "You didn't pay for fresh fruit." Like, it's very funny. I quite enjoy their reviews.
I enjoy someone who's responsive on social media.
Yes, I really do like that. Mrs. Garrett tells the girls to have a wonderful time as loudly and insanely as possible.
Have a terrific time! And then runs away, gets into this car, and speeds away. And it's like, fuck it. I don't know why your bus isn't here, but my ride, so screw you. I'm leaving. I gotta go.
And his Mrs. Garrett sign fell off his stick.
Yeah.
The score
and then so to like combat the like to put a fucking hang a lampshade on the comedy that is happening with the tiny car and fitting in Mrs. Garrett, the big suitcase, the driver, all of that. The girls are just standing there for like 15 seconds just waving. It's awkward. It's just like, is this? And I was like, this is how this is going to be. This is how this is going to be. And Peter, my husband, was sitting next to me and he was like, this is horrible to even listen to without the laugh track. It's painful. He was like, I can't even listen to it.
It's the worst
He was like, I have to go. I can't be here right now. I'm going to take a shower.
I'm just so glad that we're getting this podcast behind us and I can never think about this again. Because I went a long time not watching this, not thinking about it, just being like, that was bad and I don't want to know that it existed. Erase it.
So here's the thing, Dominik. I'm going to remind you of this. I'm going to text you every day for the rest of your life saying, remember when you forced me to watch that hellscape movie, The Facts of Life Go to Paris? And then I'm gonna probably send you letters randomly with just a screen cap of this.
The problem is that we still have one more anvil over our head. The Facts of Life Go to Australia TV movie that happens between seasons 8 and 9.
And what you're saying is that they learned nothing from this experience?
No, they learned. Okay. That's way more fun. It's way campier. It's way more over the top.
Because I'm sure there's way more fun shit to do. Like you can go surfing.
There's fun shit to do in Paris.
Hang out with koalas. Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So then the score gets slightly concerning. All the notes it's the same melody, but all the notes are slightly off. And that means there's a mean lady here to collect the girls.
Yeah.
So they start to panic. Miss Southwick greets them looking absolutely terrifying. The girls look miserable.
So here's the thing. Natalie's like, don't panic. And then they see her and they're like, and she's like, okay, well, it's time to panic now. Here's the thing. Why? All she said was, are you the Eastland girls? I'm Mrs. Southwick, which is not how you would pronounce that name if she's English. It's Southwick. Anyway, she just expects proper behavior from each of you. And like, I was like, first of all, they're like, we should panic now. They're just exchanging one mean old lady for another one for like summer vacation, right? And also, she's like, I expect proper behavior.
Garrett's not mean, but you are right. This is not a British person.
So she says, she goes, I expect proper behavior from each of you. Fat chance. These girls got Mrs. Garrett thrown in jail. They stole the van. Like, these people, like, you can't expect anything good from them.
No, you can't.
They ruined their bedroom.
Yeah, no, they're wild kids.
Real wild.
So Miss Southwick is played by Vivian Brown, who you called it is not British. She's from South Dakota. And you know how like some women are just born to be old? That is Vivian.
I mean, so is Mrs. Garrett.
Yeah, but I feel like Vivian even more so. She gained a little, like she only existed as an actress as an old lady.
Okay.
At least you can find pictures of Edna when she was young back in Appleton. But she so Vivian Brown gained some credibility doing a handful of Lou Grant episodes and a couple of Little House on the Prairies and a Waltons. She played a juror on several things before and after this. And she got into the movies The Philadelphia Experiment, Tough Turf, and 3 O'Clock High. And she died before 3 O'Clock High was released in 1987.
Okay, so this was her literal pièce de résistance was this shitty TV movie.
I mean, Tough Turf is
Okay.
her piece, but this was her one of her denouement appearances. Okay. If I'm using that right, and I honestly don't know.
No,
if I am.
You're not. But okay, let's keep going.
She lays out the rules, which are follow the rules.
Yeah.
That's
and also once they're on the bus, keep your hands inside the bus. Okay, that's a good rule to follow.
Yeah. And then she says, then she at the end she's like, "Oh yeah, and welcome to Paris." And we're supposed to be like, "Ruh-roh." Honestly, She seems fine. It's a little tough turf.
Yeah, that's the thing. And so I didn't quite actually understand how they were sold such a weird bill of goods, which is, oh, we're gonna go to summer school in Paris, and then it's just not Paris at all, and it's summer school, and they don't get to do anything there at all, and then they just escape, and there's even a moment later when Tootie's like, I wonder if our parents even like remember us since we've been in Paris jail for this whole summer, and it's like, what? Who signed off on this?
Yeah, none of it makes sense. Joe yells at Tootie for being surprised that the Eiffel Tower looks like it looks in movies. I feel like the real villain of this movie is more Joe at the beginning than Miss Southwick.
Yeah, no, and that's the great thing. I completely agree, but like it's like Joe's trying to like. So the lesson here is that Joe is like, I'm only here for Le Mans. I'm only here for this very famous race thing. I don't care about race course. I don't care about Paris. I don't care about French food. I don't care about books. I don't care about boys. All I care about is going to this one very famous race. That's all I care about. So she's poo-pooing France. So then her arc is so that she then discovers the romantic part of a trip to Paris. And she falls in love there. And she falls in love with it. And she falls in love with David. Good old David. And then, and apparently Natalie and Tootie's thing is that they need to rescue a drunk writer from himself and teach him how to the joy of writing again. Yeah. And also getting a fun whirlwind tour of Paris. And then Blair's is, you know what? I need to love myself before I find a boyfriend. I'm cool being on my own. Meh.
Yep. You summed it up. Anyway, so we cut away real quick to Mrs. Garrett's ride, where she ADRs something about being on Space Mountain.
Yeah, which I wrote down, and I was like, I haven't been on a ride like this in Space Mountain at Disneyland. So that's actually pretty of the moment, because Space Mountain had I looked this up. Space Mountain opened in 1975. So that's a pretty current reference for Mrs. Garrett to have gone all the way to California, right around the time when she was going to be taking this, job at Eastland.
So this was probably
when she was with the drumming. I need to go to Space Mountain. That's something I need to experience.
Bro, I got this. You ready?
Yeah.
She was babysitting Arnold. The Drummonds are very wealthy. They can fly. And boom, that's why she's there. She didn't want to go, but Arnold was like, Mrs. Garrett. There might even be an episode. I don't know.
That makes sense.
But sitcom encyclopedia. I'm ready to explain anything except for why this garbage got made.
So I will say this though. So they go by the they do a little like tourist thing on the bus, right? So they do like a lot of B-roll. They show like the L'Arc de Triomphe. They do Eiffel Tower. And Blair has to explain, as she usually does. She's like, every time I've seen it like a billion times, the Eiffel Tower, but every time it's a thrill. And it's like, okay, but that's true. I mean, every time you do see the Eiffel Tower, it is pretty thrilling. So I will do a little fact dump about the Eiffel Tower for you.
Please do.
So it was constructed by Gustav Eiffel, right? He designed it, and his company designed and built it. And it was the tallest man-made structure for 41 years until the Chrysler Building was completed. And it was constructed for, I think, the World's Fair in Paris in 1889, World's Fair. Anyway, everyone fucking hated it. They all of Paris was like, this is the worst. I hate, this is an eyesore. What is this piece of shit? I can't believe, and they wanted to have it torn down, and it was supposed to be temporary, but then public favor switched, and people were like, no, actually, no, we really love it. Anyway, so writers and artists like Maupassant, Gounod, and Massenet protested with a petition that Maupassant, a petition, and Maupassant ate lunch in the Tower's restaurant every day because he said it was the one place in Paris where the Tower was not visible. Anyway,
that's some great passive-aggressive Parisians.
I know, and I felt Gustave Eiffel had an apartment at the top that he used to study the weather and learned about gravity. Sorry, my cat is meowing.
Quite all right.
And then, also Gustave Eiffel also co-designed the Statue of Liberty, which was dedicated in October 28, 1886. And then, Tootie says it looks just like it does in the movies. And then Joe's like, would you think it was going to look like Shea Stadium? Okay. So first of all, that's unbelievably lazy because Joe is from the Bronx. She would have said Yankee Stadium.
Maybe comes from Mets fans.
No. People from the Bronx are not Mets fans.
Well, I want to talk about Napoleon's tomb.
So do I. Okay, you go. So then we go by. We keep going. We're doing our little driving tour, and Tootie's like, "Is that the school?" And it's this enormous building, which is Les Invalides, which is where Napoleon's tomb is. But it's a medical hospital, a military museum. Anyway, so yeah, you go. It's a church.
Well, they just Natalie's all about it and really
she's
excited.
like, I fucking know all about this shit.
She brags about how his body was perfectly preserved, which was enough for Tootie to make a Geritol joke. Again,
normal joke for a little girl in 1982 to make about something that a liquid that you could drink for, quote, tired blood. It was an iron drink, and
it still exists.
It does, but however, I did look this up. Geritol was advertised that it contained, quote, twice the iron than a pound of calf's liver, which is so gross sounding. And also that reminded me of the SNL commercial for Colon Blow.
Yes.
So the reference that Tootie's making is this commercial from 1972 with that tagline of "My wife, I think I'll keep her."
Yes, but she switches it to "My emperor."
Yeah,
I think I'll keep
and
it.
The funniest thing about that is that I watched that commercial, and the guy in it, it's like this weird sort of shitty Bill Murray impressionist who sounds drunk when he's like, "My wife, she does everything around the house, like cook and clean and take care of the kids, but I put her on the Geritol, so I think I'll keep her." It's like a weird, gross relic, and like very anti-feminist.
Yes. Anyway, so we arrive at the Hotel Le Petit Ritz, where Mrs. Garrett is pissed at her driver and plans to tell the owner of the hotel her problem.
Yeah. Wait. Do we want to talk about Napoleon's tomb?
Oh, please.
Okay, so yeah, Natalie is fucking, a genius about weird shit at this point. Like, she's like, all she wants to do is go to visit Napoleon's tomb and Père Lachaise, the cemeteries, all this shit. And at some point later in this movie, Tootie's like, I can't stand it. I didn't know that you were so obsessed with death. Like, why? I didn't know this side of you. Anyway, so Natalie does explain that so Napoleon was exiled to the island of St. Helena under English custody, And the British refused his final wish, which was to be buried on the banks of the Seine, right? And so they just once he died, they buried him with no ceremony under 3 stone slabs and 2 droopy willow trees. So then he was there for like 20 years, just with like Europe's most powerful emperor was buried with like kind of like a pauper's grave, right? So then the British they reconsider it and they're like, all right, well, we're cool now, so we'll go get his body. And so these British and French representatives sailed there to retrieve his body and bring it back to be properly buried. And so legend had it was that when the sailors dug him up, they were shocked to find his corpse in pristine condition. So this fueled rumors that the British slowly poisoned him with arsenic, which is a very strong preservative. But also there are a lot of weird little factoids about this. So while this was happening, an abbot, while delivering last rites to Napoleon's body, lopped off his penis. And then it was last bought at auction in 1969 for $38,000 by an American urologist, John Kingsley Latimer.
1969 must have been a crazy year.
Yeah. And Natalie goes, that's the place I'm dying to see. So she wants to see a military museum and a veterans hospital? What? Who is she?
She's different in Paris. We gotta admit, she's very different in Paris. Paris brings out different sides of everybody.
Yeah.
But so now we're at the Hotel La Petite Ritz, and Mrs. Garrett is very pissed at her driver, and she plans to tell the owner, but the only problem is that the owner is
her driver.
Me. Mm-hmm. And who is me?
Yes.
Jacques Ferrer.
He's my favorite part of this movie.
He's nice.
Yeah. I mean, he clearly is in love with Mrs. Garrett, who basically treats him like shit. And then steals his recipe.
Yes. I thought that was a little weird, personally. I've always thought that was weird. How just shallot? I never thought of shallot. But yeah. I thought this since I was a kid and watched this. It was very clear that this is where Mrs. Garrett gets laid. She was getting laid off camera.
For sure.
I think she could treat him however she wanted because she was giving up that big red puss.
True.
And she was paying him to stay at his place. So
true.
Anyway, so Jacques Ferrer plays Pierre Petit. That's his real name.
Yeah, little small Peter.
He is described by IMDb as a round face, wavy hair, and sometimes mustachioed look-alike of classic French writer Balzac, who he played in 2 movies.
Well, good.
Most of his credits are French, but he did voice a Smurf in the Baby Smurf movie.
Do you own that movie?
That one's a rare one. Should we
recap that one next?
We can recap Smurfs any day. I'm down. But back to the girls. Yeah. They find out that their school is an hour outside of Paris, finally, and they're horrified. If only they could hear the score, they would know.
That's true.
But further they went, the worse the score got.
So they get to this very beautiful traditional French manner, and Natalie's like immediately shit talking, and she's like, "Oh, how lovely! We're going to school in Wuthering Heights." Come on, Natalie. Like, just because it's a literary reference doesn't make it correct. Also get the country correct.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. I wrote that. Makes a nonsensical Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
Mrs. Garrett
I wrote down at that point, why is Natalie like this?
I'm telling you, Paris made her different. It was the combination of too many writers. So Mrs. Garrett is checking in with the new students for Chef Antoine's cooking class. It's here she meets Reggie Bubo.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So they're again, this is sort of like a hallmark of very bad movies and TV, but movies mostly, where like every scene is no longer than 90 seconds. And nothing in this movie is longer than 90 seconds. So you don't spend any time with anyone. So
No.
it's divided into like 1 billion 90-second increments. So it makes this 90-minute movie feel 50 times longer.
You're right. You're 100% right. But let's talk about Reggie Bubeau, whose name I love.
Is that Tewksbury?
I don't know. He's played by Laurie Main. He's an Australian theater actor.
He's the
known.
bald guy. He's the
Yeah.
bald one, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That's Reggie Tewksbury.
Really? I have it as Bubeau.
Oh.
Maybe. Well, I'm curious if I got it wrong. I probably did, but I want to find it in here.
But again, like, about like just shitty writing is that it's like, so Mrs. Garrett walks into this extremely underlit dark room and it's like, so this is the world famous Beaumont restaurant. And then the Tewksbury says the jewel in Chef Antoine's crown, as it were. And it's just like so much exposition. They're just explaining everything instead of like showing anything.
Well, I want to talk about him because he is a character actor from my childhood.
Tewksbury?
I don't have that name. IMDb just has him as Reggie. I have him as Reggie Bubeau. I don't know why you have Tewksbury and I have Bubeau. I haven't seen it in a bit, so I'm going to lean towards you here. But anyway, he's played by Laurie Main, who's an Australian theater actor, best known for being the host of Disney's Welcome to Pooh Corner. I don't know if you watched that as a kid, but it was like puppet Pooh. Like
I don't like Pooh.
I loved Pooh as a kid. And
they're also annoying.
Oh, they're great.
No. Pooh's a whiny bitch. Fuck so's Piglet. Tigger's the only good one, and he's manic. And then Eeyore's just like, I'm sad, pay attention to me.
Oh, Roo is my favorite. I like Roo. I like Kanga.
Roo.
I love Eeyore, personally. I relate to Eeyore. I thought he was the cutest.
He is the cutest, but it's just like, Anyway.
So after this, he would do a Cheech and Chong.
Oh.
He would do a couple of new Scooby-Doo movies. He did Dumbo Circus, which I also loved. He was in The Great Mouse Detective, Punky Brewster, Murder, She Wrote, Mom and Dad Saved the World, Robin Hood Men in Tights. I followed this guy's career weirdly closely. Like, I watched every one of those things.
Good.
He was part of my life.
Are you the sole member of his fan club?
Of the Tewksbury Bubeaus? That's what we are. Anyway, Reggie warns us that Chef Antoine, whose restaurant will be Mrs. Garrett's classroom for the next 4 weeks, is a terrible pain in the rump. He says it in the way only he could.
Yes.
And then Chef Antoine comes in from arguing in the kitchen. Let's just get it out of the way. We'll talk about him too.
Yeah.
He's played by Roger Till. He will be the one who returns on season 4 of Facts of Life. And not a very good episode, by the way. He comes back and he's like, feed me. And nobody speaks English. And Mrs. Garrett's like, ah.
But again, here's the other thing. Is that like, they make him out to be this very mean, tyrannical chef, right? Who is sexist, openly sexist, and is like, and then says to Mrs. Garrett, what are you doing in here? And she goes, I'm Edna Garrett. I'm supposed to be here. I came from America, Eastland School, right? And then later on, it's implied that if she doesn't get this cooking certificate from this man who runs a Michelin 3-star restaurant in France, she won't be allowed to return to Eastland. That's why.
Not actually said.
Yes, she says. She goes.
I don't know what I'll do. I can't go back at all.
Yeah.
I feel like that means shame, because what school is saying, like, you've got to. It makes no sense. If that's the case.
That's the implication, because then the stakes are very high. But again, what fucking, shitty, like boarding school is sending their dietitian to learn haute cuisine in Paris for the summer?
It doesn't make any sense. That's why since it's never touched on further, there's no way to me that it would mean, I think it would just mean she'd be ashamed and consider herself a failure. She couldn't go back and face people. It's the way I interpret it, just because I don't think that she would lose. If she would lose her job because of this, then that should have been discussed a little bit more.
Yeah. But the other great thing is that, like, so just, I'm
Well,
not sure that this show hasn't established Mrs. Garrett as they haven't established her as a bad chef. She's not a bad cook, right?
no, she's a great chef.
Yeah. So then this whole movie contradicts that. She is the world's worst cook.
I don't think that that's the case. I think that she's in a very high pressure place where the
No.
standards are very high and she's very much doubting herself, and
No.
that's making her lead to failure.
No.
I think it's about believing in yourself.
Absolutely not. I have evidence.
Okay, well, we'll get to it. I want to go more into
Talk about this
Roger
guy.
Till because there's an interesting fact about him. He played a maitre d' in Silver Spoons. He played a maitre d' in Brewster's Millions. He played a maitre d' in Heart to Heart. He played a maitre d' in Trapper John M.D. Played a maitre d' in Roller Coaster. Played a maitre d' in Laverne and Shirley. Letters from Three Lovers. Gomer Pyle. The Craft, Suspense Theater. Burke's Law, and Wall of Noise, which I've never even heard of. He's played a maitre d' 11 times. He only has 83 credits.
So he got typecast as a maitre d'.
I haven't even pointed out the times that he's played French waiter.
Yeah. So this is his thing. I mean,
yes.
But you know,
he has mastered the art of being a French guy in an American sitcom. That's his thing.
If you can, it's good work if you can get it. You know that if he's the go-to, he's the go-to.
Yes, he is the French guy who's in Hollywood who will come in 20 minutes and be French for you
and be mean.
He greets all the gentlemen and won't even shake Mrs. Garrett's hand. Yeah. Apparently, this arrangement where she had to come for some strange reason, he's not happy with.
And also, we don't need to explain it. She's just here, and he's pissed off. He's like, oh, God, you know.
He's like, I sent America the Statue of Liberty, and I get this old redheaded woman in return.
We send them the Statue of Liberty, and they send us this one? Cool, normal 1982 reference. What about World War II? You know, like, this is not an equal exchange. No shit.
We get a lovely montage of him mansplaining to her without words.
Yeah.
It's awful, but we do get the awesome score again, so that was happy. She can't make a salad. She can't stir. She claps some souffles flat. She's literally terrible at everything.
Yeah. And which is insane. I mean, then there's a later moment where she gets so flustered and upset by him that she literally puts a mixer into a bowl of flour and it turns it on for no reason and it flies into her face and humiliates her. And you know, it was like vaudeville. It was like the level
if vaudeville was painfully unfunny.
Yeah.
The girls aren't having much of a better time. They're making Natalie exercise to the point where she can't stay awake in class. They're not allowed to smile or laugh when walking to class.
That was the funniest thing is that it's like the three bad things that happened in this, like rule of threes, is the exercise. They had to exercise, learn about poetry, and then they got scowled at for laughing in the hallway.
Not allowed.
That's the bad thing.
France is famously humorless.
Yes.
The montages work hard and fast in France because Natalie has now announced it is their 26th day in captivity.
Yeah.
And I was like, I saw 3 things. What?
Yeah.
But that has been almost all of the 4 weeks, and the movie should just be over and we should be done.
So, my point of view is we should have just gotten rid of this first 20 minutes.
Yeah. That's
the solution is let's go to France for a week and everyone gets to have fun on their own. And then we go to we reunite at the airport.
Makes sense to me. But the girls are complaining about how they'll never see Paris when Miss Suffolk comes in and announces their last 5 days will be spent in Paris.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
Yeah.
And they're delighted until Blair remembers that Suffolk sucks and Natalie will never get to eat things in tombs.
Yeah.
And Joe's already pumped, though. She's breaking free to Le Mans.
Yeah. She's like, because she wants to go to Le Mans. I guess I should kiss Le Mans goodbye. And I was like, Blair's going to be like, would you kiss my Le Mans? Anyway, so Le Mans, you know what it is?
Yeah, from the movie.
Did you see that movie?
No, this movie we watched.
Oh. Sorry, I thought you meant Ford versus Ferrari.
No.
Yeah, of course not. I was like, why would you see that? Le Mans is the world's oldest active sports car race in endurance racing. People race for 24 hours.
Oh, that's
to
crazy.
show how amazing their automotive engineering is.
How do they get gas?
They stop every so often, like in a pit, like when they do racing and car, like they do a pit stop. That's what that's called. And they like more gas. They fix the tires. Vroom, vroom, vroom. I don't know. That's basically all of Ford versus Ferrari. I just did a recap.
One
last thing about Le Mans. So it's been held since 1923 near Le Mans, France, and they race for 24 hours. It's held in the fall. Okay, it's held in September. So not when these girls are in France. And it's also 200 kilometers from France. How the fuck is Joe planning on getting there? Oh, and apparently her idea was to walk. She was going to walk there.
Hadn't she was hitchhiking?
No, she wasn't like, you know what? Maybe I should I consult a bus? Maybe there's a train. There's probably, I don't know. Does France have a pretty robust intercity train system? I'm going to walk. No, they probably don't have that. Why would they have that?
That would be too much. That would take
logic?
Too much from the plot.
Too much logic.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. What?
So basically, so Joe laments. She's like, this school has better security than Devil's Island. So how are they going to get out of there, right? But then the woman comes in and tells them, whatever, you can leave. And then they're like, okay, well, we can escape. Anyway, do you know what Devil's Island is?
No.
So Devil's Island is a 19th century prison island located in French Guiana, which was featured in the 1973 Steve McQueen movie, Papillon, which was an autobiography by Henri Charrière, which is about a safecracker who repeatedly tried to escape jail and then on this island and is tortured a lot. So they remade it recently with, I can't remember who did it. Anyway, when this movie came out in 1973, Papillon, which again, very normal reference for a 15-year-old girl to make on a children's show. Variety magazine described it as, quote, 150 uninterrupted minutes of despair, brutality, and little hope. On an audience level, it is a relentless downer, which is what this movie is as well.
Yes. You are not wrong. So now we're in Paris finally. We're looking at
because they're like, because the woman comes in, basically gets rid of the problem, the Mrs. Southwick, and it's like, we're gonna go learn about Paris for the rest of your time here, and then it's like, we're gonna learn about it, and then Joe's like, well, let's just escape, let's just leave, let's leave the tour.
Yeah, they're gonna know. See, Blair knows this tour of Notre Dame by heart.
How?
Why? How many times has she gone on this tour? The specific tour of Notre Dame
with this woman she's never met
by
before.
This woman that is their headmaster.
That they've never met before.
Yeah,
and clearly
I know this tour by heart. Anybody who comes here has to speak from the strict script, and they're going to point at things. Yes. And when they point at those things in the specific order, we will know.
Yeah.
Anyway, there will be a perfect moment to sneak away, but that moment has been the entire scene. They could have snuck away at any point. Nothing is different when Blair gives them the go-ahead sign.
No.
People are just looking up slightly higher than they were before.
Slightly higher. It's
just
up to the famous bell towers. Yeah.
Okay,
but also, my favorite thing is that
we're not safe. We're safe.
But they also talk about the 3 portals at Notre Dame, right? And all the girls laugh about the Virgin's portal because it's like, ha ha, pussy joke.
Yeah, that's vagina.
Yeah.
Those girls look like Bananarama.
Oh, the other people, honest to God, whoever cast this somehow managed to find mostly the world's ugliest people, because the rest of the girls in that group are bad looking. Also, you know what else is bad looking? Blair's hair for the rest of this movie.
Yeah, it's not her best hair. Anyway, so they didn't prepare at all in that their bags are still on the bus, but Joe's a plan which we will never see.
It's just, I'll go get the bags, but you run away from here. And the other thing is that, so they, not only did they not think this through, aside from having to escape from this random ass tour of Notre Dame, but they didn't think about their bags, and they also didn't think about what they're going to do with their passports with Miss Southwick, has on her person. That then again doesn't become another problem later. That's never explained away. We never see Mrs. Southwick again, who is weirdly unconcerned that 4 random girls left her tour and were never seen again. She should lose her job. This is child endangerment.
I think Mrs. Garrett contacted her to say she's heard from the girls and she's got it from here. I think that was covered a little bit.
No.
But anyway, Joe heads off to Le Mans, which is 133 miles away, with zero money. None at all.
No
She's
money.
not concerned that her friends have no money and no place to stay at all. Weirdly,
Yeah.
Tootie is all about being a French hobo, and Blair's out of brilliant ideas.
Well, so they don't have their passports, which means that Blair can't cash her traveler's checks. And she goes, being in Paris without being broke in Paris I've had nightmares like this. This movie is a nightmare.
Yes. But luckily,
Tootie's like, let's go sleep in the park. Like, let's go sleep in the Tuileries. And I also, honest to God, I just feel like they made her have this batshit idea, which is, let's sleep in a park in central Paris, just so that they could reference something that was French, to say that this is where they are.
Yeah.
And
there's nothing good happening anywhere in this.
I will say this. So I've been to Paris a few times, and one time I was in a park with my boyfriend at the time, walking in the Bois de Boulogne and to a restaurant, and it wasn't even dusk, but the entire place was filled with prostitutes. And it was like a nice park. Like, it was like, we were on our way to like a very fancy restaurant. It was just like, it would just not be safe at night. And so Tootie's like,
maybe that was like a plot that they were trying to do. Like, the writers were like, okay, we love making Tootie prostitute.
Exactly.
Let's have her sleep in the prostitute park. And it happens again.
Yeah. Anyway, now we're back with, now here's where Mrs. Garrett lost my brain fell out because of how badly Mrs. Garrett has somehow managed to forget how to cook.
Oh, are we talking about how she can't make beef bourguignon because her kids can't have wine sauce?
Yes.
Fuck that.
Yeah. And
you're learning how to make it. You're not feeding your kids.
And also, so she doesn't understand how cooking works because the alcohol disappears. It evaporates and just leaves the flavor. And, there's no alcohol in the food itself.
I know.
And then later, what does she make for her special dish? Lobster thermidor. Do you know what lobster thermidor has in it?
Sherry. Cognac.
So this is inconsistent bullshit.
I had lobster thermidor once in my life. It was delicious.
Yeah, it is. Did it have dill and shallots in it and sweet butter?
I don't know. I didn't ask. So anyway, she's sure he understands, but when it comes to his bœuf, he understands nothing.
Yeah.
And he tells her to clean the kitchen or be expelled, and she agrees.
She says, if you can't cook, then you will clean. And she's like, clean.
Why is she here?
Why is she here?
I don't know. Reggie tells her to stick to her guns, but she looks at the camera and says if she doesn't go back with her diploma, she can't go back at all. And this is where it's like, what? But it's never discussed again.
Never discussed again. But the stakes are super high if Mrs. Garrett can't go back.
So that's her motivation for taking the abuse. It should be clearly more spelled out. It's really weird.
But also, here's the thing. I don't understand why the structure of this entire... Why didn't they just have the girls have fun with Mrs. Garrett in Paris? Why does everyone have to have a nightmare plot?
I don't know. I wish I knew. Reggie tells her to stick to her guns, but she looks... Oh, yeah, I did all of that already. Hang on. I'm adjusting my lighting. Anyway, so we get a close-up of Charlotte Ray's feet now.
Yeah, I wrote down she was orgasming during this scene.
Because
she had her bare feet in a bowl, and Small Peter was pouring water on them, and her hair was down.
Yes, it was also the darkest lit scene I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Mrs. Garrett cries about how she's not allowed to wear a white hat.
Yeah. And
her
she
hair
goes,
down is so disorienting.
Yeah.
Pierre explains that she'll get her white hat when she graduates, which seems normal to me.
Like, you don't... Here's the thing. If you go to culinary school, you don't get to wear a toque. You know, the chef's jacket, a white toque. You don't get to wear that until you actually graduate from culinary school. It's like, you know, if you graduate from the police academy, you don't get to wear your badge until you do that.
Yeah, Reggie explains, though, that all the other chefs that are taking this course are already chefs, which is why they get their hats. Why does he know so much about this school?
I don't know.
Anyway, Mrs. Garrett and Pierre fuck, but she pretends like she's going to fall asleep. And then Blatutti bursts into the room.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
I would
How
kill
did they
them.
find her?
I don't know. Then time seems to not make sense anymore at all.
Time doesn't make sense at all in this. Like, there's no sense of, like, it's like, it was like, oh, we've only got 5 days left in Paris. And then it's like, oh, we got to go to the airport tomorrow. You know, and then it's like, oh, after, you know, and then Mrs. Garrett's like, Small Peter's like, Mrs. Garrett, you can, Edna, you can use my restaurant at the hotel after I finish dinner service to practice your lobster thermidor. And then after you do that, I'm going to take you out on the town. So that's presumably 4 a.m. and she needs to wake up the next morning to do her test.
Yes, I was very confused by that as well. And also, like, here, like, the girls show up without Joe, Blatutti, and so they're just like, all right, okay, so now it's the morning.
Yeah.
Now it's the morning. Tootie is biking home with the world's largest dildo.
Well,
and
so she has this. So here's the thing. So first of all, where the fuck did she get that bike? Where'd she get the money? Where did she find that huge baguette? Right?
Yes.
So
it's
literally just for the visual joke of a little girl on a big bike with a huge piece of bread going, bonjour, beep, beep, bonjour, beep, beep, bonjour, beep, beep, for like 15 seconds, and then bursts into the room with this huge piece of bread, breaks it, and goes, you want to bake bread with me?
Yeah. Also, the thing that I was trying to point out was that Mrs. Garrett just finds out about Joe's Le Mans trip in the morning.
Exactly.
Why would Mrs. Garrett not ask, where's the fourth one?
Yeah. Maybe she was too tired from all that foot orgasming from that Small Peter gave her.
I guess.
She was just not, she wasn't observant. She was like, whatever, all of you are here, right? Okay, fuck it.
Even Mrs. Garrett rolled her eyes at that breaking bread joke.
Yeah.
Mrs. Garrett tries to chastise the girls for skipping out of school, but they whine so much that she decides to take a comb to her hair, which alarms them into silence.
Well, because she starts like brushing it all over the place and trying to get herself together, because they whine so much, saying it's so horrible being at a school with a very mean taskmaster woman who is always shitting on our dreams and making us feel bad and forcing us to do stuff that we don't want to do. And so she suddenly feels empathy for them, because that's exactly what she's going through with the chef.
It feels like that when like they decided to like start breaking the story for this movie, they were like, what do we want to learn more about with the facts of life? And somebody was like, I want to learn more about how Mrs. Garrett's hair works. They were like, all right, should we call it a day? Are we good? Eventually the hair monster emerges and agrees to go along with the girl's storyline. She can't focus on anything until her bun is in place anyway.
Yeah.
Red calls Mrs. G a saint, and the Toots are off to go where one of the Hemingways ate breakfast.
Yeah, La Coupole.
But meanwhile, we get to Jo, who is hitchhiking literally in the middle of nowhere, talking to herself and also talking to moving vehicles that can't hear her, saying things like, hey, I'm a biker too.
So this guy goes past her, blows past her on a bike. And she goes, and then like just down the road, like his bike breaks down or something. And so then Jo walks, she sees him and she's like, puts on her weird biker vest, right? Goes over there, talks shit to him. And she's like, my dick is bigger than yours. Also, where I come from, bikers give other bikers rights. I don't think so, first of all. But secondly, so then she's like, my dick is bigger than yours, Froggy. I can fix your bike. Takes off her vest. And then they have this weird expository thing while she's like, well, this is such a simple problem, blah, blah, blah. Fix your grommet and your widget and whatever. And then they have an expository conversation like, sorry, I'm Jo. Oh, I'm David. Oh, you shouldn't be reading books. You should be in a motorcycle garage learning about motorcycles because you shouldn't have a motorcycle unless you know how to use a motorcycle. And then he's like irrevocably turned on.
Yes. Let's talk about David quickly. He's
the only cute one of all the men.
He's played by Frederic Andre. He's got 20 credits as an actor, all French stuff. All very sporadic, starting in 1978 and ending in 2015. So just like every once in a while. He's directed a handful of movies, and he's also way cuter in his IMDb picture than he is in this movie. Jo tells David to work in the gas station. We heard all that shit. I felt like she was trying to get him a role on the new spinoff, Joe's Cousin, this fall on NBC.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so now we're back with the Toots, and it's odd that Tootie doesn't even have a plot in this movie. She just went plotless midway through season 3, and they're just keeping that streak.
Well, yeah, true, but I think the reason is because they can't have the two youngest girls wandering around by themselves in Paris.
No, they need a creepy old man with them who's an alcoholic.
Garth Kiley. Also, what the fuck name is that?
It's the least catchy name ever.
Oh, Tootie, don't you know who that is? That's Garth Kiley. Who also is like the grossest guy. He looked like a werewolf. His chest hair was so thick and verdant, it looked like a sweater.
So hot.
And his shirt was open to like basically his his navel.
I'm not kidding. I was turned on by him regularly because of that exact fact that you brought up.
Aside from the fact that he was being a drunk around children and then trying to like use them to get out of a work assignment.
I love the name of his book, A Small Room in Manhattan.
Yeah, me too.
The best you could come up with. Anyway, did you?
But Natalie's like, oh my God. Natalie's like, what?
Oh, I asked if you recognized Garth Kiley as an actor.
No, I don't know who the fuck that is.
He's very famous. He's actually sitcom royalty. He's Frank Bonner, who had just completed 88 episodes of WKRP in Cincinnati. And he went on, and how I know him the most as Father Hargis on Just the 10 of Us. Where he was a creepy priest, and he was great. His most recent credit was in 2014 in something called Under the Hollywood Sign, which was about a struggling actor and was also written and directed by the struggling actor who stars as the lead. It sounds so masturbatory.
Are you going to watch it and masturbate to it?
Nah, I'm into young Frank Bonner, not old Frank Bonner. So Natoots walks over and stands directly over him as he reads his paper. He's supposed to be all quippy.
Yeah.
And all his quips are the worst, like when he calls them Saudi princesses.
Yeah, but also also, but here's the thing is that it's like he's not only being a total piece of shit, right? But like he's condescending and insulting, but Natalie's the worst. She's like, you know, he's being a prick, and she's like laughing along in her annoying glottal chuckle, like.
Yes. She's got his book jacket photo wrapped up in plastic.
I thought that too, and he was like, well, that's why I can't breathe. And then I thought Tootie was going to be like, you know, Natalie, this guy sucks. This guy can't be your idol. Like who is this piece of shit? Why do you want to rescue him?
Yeah, but nope, that's not the case. Tootie was like, let me help you rescue him.
Yeah.
Maybe Tootie eventually reads A Small Room in Manhattan and decides it is great.
Maybe.
I don't think so. It seems terrible.
Yeah.
So Natalie sits down to quiz him on his writing, and Tootie says she didn't read his book because she's all out of fucks to give.
Yeah. And
good. I like that side of
that's
Tootie.
Fine. Whatever. But Natalie also, like, you know, kind of harangues him in a lot of ways where it's like she asks him questions that like no writer likes, which is, where's your second book? Why aren't you writing more? Like, I need your books, you know? And it's just like, don't, like, fuck you. Like, you know.
Well, we're going to get to that. I think that comes in a second. First, we get a complete unforgettable scene of Blair having lunch with Angelique, a fancy lady.
Yeah.
She's so scary looking too. Let's talk about her. She's played by Caroline Ducoroc. According to her IMDb, is Val Kilmer, Tyrese Gibson, Digimon Hansu, and CCH Pounder, and Morris Chestnut's acting coach.
Wow.
So, aside from Val Kilmer, she's really like coached a lot of black actors.
Good for her.
It's just a specific thing for a French lady that doesn't seem to be able to speak any English in this movie. But
who kind of has like no role, right?
Yeah, she's almost invisible. She was the acting coach for all of Black Nativity, the movie, as well. She appears to be the French acting coach for black actors in Hollywood. As for acting credits, she only has 6. Her most notable was as French embassy guest in Whoopi Goldberg's Jumpin' Jack Flash. Ooh. And doesn't she look like the chick from the Arcade Fire?
I barely remember who that looks. The only one I can remember is the lead singer.
Oh, looks like this girl. Anyway, she tells Blair that she shouldn't sketch cathedrals. She'll never get fucked by a French baguette that way. And Blair's like, I'm a cock magnet.
Yeah. And also, I will say this. That is literally the worst advice possible. That is like a prime thing for a hot American blonde girl to get hit on. And what happens? She immediately gets hit on when she's doing that. But also, so she's like, well, I want to go to Sacre-Cœur and I want to sketch the cathedral. And the woman's like, that's bullshit. That's a terrible place. So Sacre-Cœur is in Montmartre. We see it. We actually go there. And because I was looking it up because I just wanted to, you know, because I've been there and so it gets 4.7 stars on Google.
Well, that's pretty good.
3 months ago, it got 1 star from one guy saying, dangerous. My backpack got stolen along with my passport, iPad, and laptop. Bad. And then on TripAdvisor, a 1-star review is, it's plagued with scum and villainy, which is a Star Wars reference. It's just such a weird thing for someone to be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go on the fucking internet and I'm going to rate a cathedral. It sucks here. Meh. You know? And it's like, it's an incredibly beautiful building. The only thing that's problematic is that because like anything that's a tourist attraction, there are a lot of pickpockets that hang out there. And like, you're distracted because you're looking up and you're taking pictures and someone just, you know, bumps into you and steals your wallet. Like, you know, anyway. But I like the fact that people were compelled to go on Google and TripAdvisor to talk shit about an iconic cathedral in Paris.
Me too.
And I
people
will
have a
say
lot
this.
of time on their hands right now.
When I was in Paris, when I was right before I went to college, I spent some time in Paris, and I was actually walking home from Shakespeare and Company, the bookshop that they go to in the end of this terrible movie. because Shakespeare Company is I was staying nearby there, and it was a very close a close bookstore that I could buy English language books to entertain myself with. And I was 18 years old, and I was walking home from there, and I sort of stopped and like paused right by Notre Dame, which is like across the bridge from Shakespeare Company. And I stopped for like 30 seconds to admire it. And I was immediately hit on, like immediately. And I'm not saying that that's like, it was like, you know, it was actually unpleasant because it was like this creepy guy with a rolling suitcase who would not stop bothering me. But it's like if you're clearly a tourist in Paris, men will hit on you.
Well, maybe I should go to Paris then. Back to Natoots.
Yeah.
Natalie is apparently too old to call him Mr. Kiley, too young to call him Garth. So they settle on GK since it's 82. This is where she's rudely asking why he never wrote another book. Particularly insensitive as she's read the New York Times article claiming he doesn't have a second book in him.
Yeah.
At this point, I'd be like, fuck off, bro. If I were GK. But it's also at this point that I realize what a hairy chest Frank Bonner has, and I'm more focused on the movie than I was prior. GK lies about being in the middle of writing a trilogy and then changes the subject to all these touristy places they should go.
Yeah.
Nat invites him, but he hates them.
And clearly she can't read social signals because he's been insulting and bad and condescending and garbagey this whole time. And she's like, whatever, I want to keep hanging out with you and maybe I'll suck your dick a little bit later.
Yeah, and he does that 80s sitcom thing where he's like, now, if you had said tomorrow, I would be on board. And then Tootie's like, that's what we're saying, fucker. You've got no free will. You're a creepy adult who's taking us, two young girls, on a tour of Paris tomorrow, so wash your balls because you're probably going to be knee-deep in our faces with them.
Yeah, and then she's like, I got my agenda right here. Where am I writing? What time am I writing?
Yeah, Tootie's intense as hell. Tootie's also different in Paris. Then we go to Blair.
She's like less chaotic.
Yes. We go to Blair, who is trying to pretend it's not irrationally windy to be sketching without an easel. But that's what she's trying to do. When a totally gross French guy comes and asks her to sit the way she was before because he's sketching her. Such a pervert. Just take a fucking upskirt shot and go home, bro.
Well, no, he was like, because she was also doing this weird thing where she was walking around while sketching, you know, which is a normal thing to do while you draw something, is to not just sit in one place and draw it. So then she moves over, she sits back down, and then the guy comes over. He's like, can you cross and uncross your legs again so that I can just look right up your skirt a little bit more? And because I was drawing that part of you, so please spread those wide. And then
is this like an old-fashioned version of taking a creeper shot on your cell phone?
She's so charmed. She's like, ooh, this. She's like, that's right, I wasn't, because he was drawing her, right? And then he's like, the cathedral will always be there. I had to capture you before you slipped away. And then he asks her for coffee and cognac. Normal, 16. I mean, it's the age of drinking is 16.
Yeah, before mixing colors, you have to have the 3 C's: coffee, cognac, and coffee.
And cocaine. Oh, okay. Anyway, so then she's like, oh, sweet, I'm so excited. Like, this is going to be awesome. Like, this is part of that dream that I had about...
Yeah, I had this crazy sex dream about you last night.
Yeah, about meeting a guy at a cathedral. You know, sexy priest. I don't know. Anyway, so then the guy's like, he's like, yeah, let's, come on. And then immediately a little boy runs up and he's like, Papa, and with his mom. And then and Blair's just like, what? And it's like, cute, very cute. And then the mom and the kid walk away, and the guy goes, I'm French.
Yeah, what can I say? I'm French.
I'm like, okay, but like, so that's the thing, is that so Blair is constantly learning the lesson that all men are trash.
Yeah, at least the French ones. That's for sure what I felt like this was about. That was her plot, was all men in France are gross. I should just take a nice walk. He was played by Dominik Broguille, who has 70 credits going back to 1971. And he's still working today. This is his only English project to date. I hate his face. Anyway, So we're back with Joe and her beau. Apparently the bike's been broken down again. He doesn't want her to fix it again because she would have fixed it the first time. They're walking the bike to the nearest town. This seems like a real stutter step.
So this is what I don't understand. So we're back with Joe, and she's had to sleep in the forest with this guy because of the bike problem? Why didn't she just keep walking?
Wait, when did they sleep?
He said, she was like, I'll fix the bike. And he said something about like, he was upset. He was like, oh no, maybe they didn't sleep. He said, if we don't walk to the next village, we'll have to sleep in the forest.
Yes,
That's what he says. That's what he does. And it's to show that he's like a gentleman. You know, it's that he's like, we have to keep going. I want to take care of you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we didn't need it. But now we're back with the Toots. It's the next day. And they're ready to meet up with that old man again. We have no idea how
I literally wrote down, like, they began to walk his bike to the next time. I go, why? Fuck this guy and his shitty bike.
I agree. I thought it was really weird. But so now we're watching GK morning drink. This might be why he hasn't had another book in him.
Yeah.
But maybe he's always just taking 15-year-old girls on tours of sewers, and that's why he hasn't had time to write another book.
Yeah, and again, here's the thing: is it like, so they clearly used this one cafe as the like catch-all, but they wanted to make sure that we referenced a lot of the other famous one, like because it was La Coupole, and this one's, you know, Natalie and Tootie were like, hello, we thought we were going to see you at the Le Duval Go, but they told us that we could find you here. And then, so here you are getting morning drunk. And then they're just like, so when's the tour? What's going on? And then over comes some random black woman, and he tries to hide from her.
That's Chip Fields. That's Tootie's mom in real life. And she will become Tootie's mom on the show later on. So she will return as well, but as a different character.
Anyway, so she comes over and yells at him about how, like, you know, if he doesn't give her the article that he promised her about Paris tours, then he's going to be ruined and have no writing opportunities in Paris ever again, except to write what's on the back of magazines.
That seems like a same level of writing tourism articles.
Completely agree. But again, like, so is that like the dessert page? Is that the history of the restaurant that you're sitting in?
I assumed it was like copyright 2018 Cheesecake Factory.
Okay.
Chip Fields got her start in 1974 with the TV movie Change at 125th Street. Went on to be in The Happy Hooker, Rhoda, Police Story. She was a regular. She was an amazing regular on The Amazing Spider-Man. She recurred on Good Times, and after her daughter started bringing in the bacon, she slowed down. She did a Rock. She did a Hanging with Mr. Cooper. She did an episode of Kirk Cameron's sitcom Kirk. Parker's, the Wayans Brothers. Her last gig was in 2017 on Just Jordan. She also sang with Ronnie Spector and the Ronettes, and unless I'm mistaken, because the name is common, her first husband was John Randolph, who is one of my favorite sitcom actors from Grand, who was born in 1915, which could potentially make John Randolph Kim Fields' father. I did some research, and I cannot find out who Kim Fields' biological father is.
Ooh.
So
is this a Facts of Facts exclusive?
It's a Facts of Facts ponderous scandal exclusive. I don't know if it's true, but I would love to know more about it.
Okay, well, Facts of Lovelies, get on the case.
Yes, John Randolph was in Grand, which is my favorite TV show of all time.
But not this show?
No, Grand. He lies about the Toots being his kids.
Yeah.
To Chip Fields, and we learn he hasn't written a coherent sentence since 1979, and if this article's not on Chip's desk by tomorrow, he's through. Yeah. Very convenient. He drinks, makes excuses. Natalie calls him a lush. There is a lush carpet on his chest, I'll say that much. Natalie is pissed and ready to leave, but for some reason, Tootie has all this motivation. The guy needs him. We have to save him.
Yeah, because she was like, we have to stay and help him. And, she was like, we can be his muse. And she's like, she references, she's like, I once saw this movie with Greer Garson and Ronald Coleman
Of course.
where, what?
Of course. Everybody's
Yeah.
thinking about those two in 1982.
Normal. And I Googled that. And it was a 1942 movie.
Random Harvest.
Yeah. Which is about a man with memory problems.
These writers randomly harvested this reference.
Yeah, it could have been anything. Like they didn't even have to say that. They could have said you could just be his muse and he can learn how to, see Paris through your eyes because you've never been here. He can fall in love again with this place if we help him do this. No. Let's not even use the title of the movie. Let's just talk about Greer Garson and Ronald Coleman.
Yeah. It's so weird. It was
weird. When you saw this the first time, were you like, yeah, that makes sense. That's a normal thing.
I mean, obviously I didn't get the reference. I didn't get the reference now. I've never gotten the reference. I Googled it and even Google was like, are you sure you're Googling these people?
Yeah.
Like in 1982, nobody would understand this reference. So
no.
Bizarre. But Nat is taken by the idea of being a muse, and Tootie wants to change his life since hers isn't being changed by this trip. Tootie is so all about this. It's really weird. She promises tomorrow they can.
It's such a weirdly sort of like grim, well, if this fucking trip isn't going to be great, then let's try to make it good for him. It's like this sort of gallows humor kind of thing. Like, you know what? If our trip is screwed for me because I don't get to go into the top of the Eiffel Tower, then you know what? Let's help this guy out.
And then she her bartering is to promise Natalie that tomorrow they can go to any graveyard Natalie wants. Why are you sacrificing more of your trip to Natalie so you can sacrifice your trip to this alcoholic who's continually lying to you?
Maybe because Tootie's a sociopath and she wants to ruin this guy's life actually and get him further down in the sauce and murder him in the sewers of Paris.
Perhaps. I don't know. Regardless, Natalie likes the plan enough that they're going to force him to write this article. They then have the waiter take back the 2 decanters filled with wine, which I don't think that's how that works. Also, just do one at a time, bro.
Unless you're Tootie. You'd be like, yeah.
Tootie decanter. Anyway, so we're back with Joe walking the bike to the nearest town. But it's now been another day. And we don't know where they slept or what happened. It's almost a metaphor for this movie. She's laughing at something that isn't funny, also a metaphor for this movie. I think she knows what's wrong with his bike, and she's chosen to be silent out of spite, which she thinks is funny. And I'm like, whatever, this plot.
And again, like, it's just like, I was like, they're just walking with the bike. And then it's like, we got this weird little like update. We could have just not had this scene. Right.
Yeah.
So then,
we could have not had a lot of these scenes.
Yeah.
Then we're going to Blair buying too
as
many
I said,
things.
this thing could have been at a regular episode length.
Oh, this thing could have been 30 seconds. It could have just been a commercial saying, "Thanks, Facts of Life Paris fans. We love you too." And then be done.
Yeah. And then we go back to Blair. Blair's just gone shopping with her new bestie, and then comes out and they're talking about some stupid party, and then Blair sees this guy.
But isn't Angelique buying all of those things for Blair since Blair has no money?
Yes.
That's crazy.
I don't know. Maybe they're old friends. Anyway, so then Blair sees this. The woman's like, I gotta go, prepare for the boring ass party that I'm having. And they established at some point that she's a curator, right? Is that right? She has a gallery.
Yes.
Yeah. And so then Blair's like, so then she's like, I got to take all these boxes back. And then Blair's like, I got to go speak to this fucking street artist about his shit being right in front of Bulgari. And goes up to him. He's putting up his pictures and he's like, you see anything you like my exposed penis right here? And she's like, but he's like, ooh, you're hot. And she's like, ooh, you're hot.
Yeah. The guy who did this, has only ever done 4 roles, and they're all in 1982.
Yeah.
Blair and George are having a meal now, holding hands, discussing how fate brought them together. I hope he's asking how many kids he has, because he's French, of course.
Well, right.
The guy can't talk. This is why he only had 4 roles in his lifetime.
Well, it's like, because here's the thing, is that he recognized who that woman was and was trying to angling to get an invite to this fucking party, right?
Yeah, he hears that Angelique and Jacques are hosting Blair, and they are the it art people. He must attend that party.
Yeah.
Afterwards,
Anyway,
maybe possibly there'll be a date. And she's like, fuck you.
Yeah,
the moral of Blair's story is French guys are terrible.
Yeah, and then she goes, in your ear, Cherie, and then walks, and then leaves. And she goes, how am I supposed to fall in love when there are no decent men in Paris? She screams it at an old man.
Looks like a young Bernie Sanders.
I was going to say he looks like a man who has those Groucho glasses with the mustache and the eyebrows and the nose, but like that's his actual face.
Yes, that's good. He does.
And he said, and it's like, why have that guy there? Like just a random dude that's sort of like, I'm a decent man.
Isn't this movie weird in how, like, when you leave to go to a different plot, you like are like, oh, thank God I'm out of that plot. Oh God, I hate this plot even more. Like, you're never comfortable. You're just always like more annoyed at where you've gone next and what's happening there. So we're back to Mrs. Garrett, and Chef Antoine is mocking her choice to make lobster for her final exam. She thinks she's a bumbling fool in the kitchen. He thinks she's a bumbling fool in the kitchen, and he's like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
He thinks
anyway,
she drop
this
out
is where
before
I got
the final
mad.
humiliation.
She says, I'm going to make lobster bechamel.
Thermidor.
And I was like, that's probably lobster thermidor, but they for some reason don't want to use that or whatever. And so I looked it up, and that literally is lobster thermidor. Which has cognac in it.
Yes. I'm not a huge fan of bechamel. It's okay.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like a very light cream sauce. It's not like a super exciting thing that apparently is a revelation later when Mrs. Garrett serves it to Chef Antoine.
Well, with Charlotte. Anyway, she stands in the middle of the room facing the camera and screams, I have not begun to cook, and then puts the egg beater in the bowl of flour for no reason.
Yeah.
These were their choices.
Yeah, and it blows up all over her. And I wrote, she should drop out. She sucks at this. She's really bad.
She should drop out of the movie.
She should never be seen again.
Back to Natoots. They're now walking in the rain. GK has a headache. He likes it. It reminds him he's alive.
Well, no, it's like a Paris, and then Natalie says, like, Paris in the rain. What could possibly be better? I don't know. Paris in the sunshine? And then she offers, he has a headache, and he's like, he has a headache because he's hungover. He has a headache because he's hungover, and he's like, no, this headache makes me feel alive. And she's like, and Natalie's like, I have aspirin. Do you want gum too?
He does have that joke though, that classic joke when he goes, "Rain? Is that what this is?" That was ADR'd in. He went into a booth because they were like, "Oh, we got this great thing that bring Frank Bonner back in because rain. Is that what this is?" It's going to be so funny.
Yeah.
Then we get a montage of French things.
It's just B-roll with their stupid voiceover.
Yes. Paris.
And then he says,
"You think you know her? There's always part of her that's a mystery." Gross.
Like her asshole?
Nah, some women know their asshole pretty well.
That's true.
Now GK is leading this charge, and the girls are exhausted. What a wild twist happened in a montage.
Oh wow! And he's writing his article while also humming the Marseillaise because he's gone full Parisian.
I called it the French song.
Yes. And then he goes, no. And then one of them says, "No wonder they call it the city that never sleeps." No one calls it that.
I know they call New York that.
It's New York is the city that never sleeps, and Paris is the city of love. Everyone knows that.
I don't know why he put that in his.
And Natalie's like, no wonder they call it the city that never sleeps.
Oh, Natalie, you're from New York. Natalie is from New York.
As I said, this movie, it's as though they asked someone who had never written a movie before, who had never been to Paris, to write a movie about going to Paris. And that person spoke to someone who had read a guidebook a long time ago. And then that person spoke to them, and then they wrote it down, put it through Google Translate, and then spat it back out. That is the coherence of this movie.
Agreed. So now we're back to Joe. They're at the inn. David and the innkeeper have some French conversation. It looks like the innkeeper is planning some kind of rape fantasy with Joe.
Yeah.
And then she calls him a geek, which really freaks him out, makes him grab his neck.
Yeah.
I Googled it. In France, geek means geek. So that was that.
Okay.
Let's talk about the innkeeper.
Innkeeper, he's like, the guy's like, so in comes David, and he's like, yeah, we need a room. And the guy's like, oh yeah? And he's like, oui, and he's like, basically like,
is that he was like planning a rape fantasy?
The dick in pussy finger motion, while also like licking his lips and like sucking his teeth. And he's a really gross guy. And it's like, I didn't understand what he was like. Like David could have been like, no, you're not gonna fuck her. I want to. Like,
well, let me talk about him for a second. Let's just get it out. All my notes are past his bio. So. His name is Bernard Souffle, which is the main reason I wanted to bring him up.
That's a good name.
Yeah, he's got 19 credits. They're all French except for this. He was in the original version of The Toy that was made in France in the 70s, which is the Richard Pryor movie from the 80s.
Wait, is that
where a white boy buys Richard Pryor to be his toy?
Oh my God, yeah. I know about that.
Yeah, so this is it was an original French version in the 70s. That was a remake. Bernard Souffle was in that.
Sorry, someone I know is probably going to get canceled because they went as that for Halloween one year, and they went in blackface. So
cancellation implies that
they matter, but it was pretty. It was shocking. Anyway, keep going.
I'm proud to say that I have never blackfaced in my life. I've never thought about blackfacing. Nope. But I will say that I have always been a big fan of the Designing Women episode where Delta Burke, to perform as one of the Supremes, automatically thinks we're all blackfacing and shows up and they're all like, what are you doing? That is a really funny episode. But I watched it as a kid. I haven't watched it now, so I could be wrong. Please don't cancel me. I haven't seen it recently.
Okay.
But I have good memories of that episode.
Okay.
Anyway, so they have the single room to rent for the two of them. The innkeeper is doing this.
Yeah.
Joe threatens his life, but it's not clear if he speaks English.
No.
So when they get settled, the innkeeper just watches them like a freak until Joe shoos him away.
Also,
so creepy.
They literally just go upstairs, wherever the fuck this set is, and it's unclear if there's a door.
There's no door.
That guy was just sitting there watching them sleep.
Yeah, no, not good. Not a good place to stay. But David does offer Joe the bed, and she's like, no.
She goes, there's only one bed, and he goes, yeah. Oh, sorry, I guess I forgot to translate that part. Yuck. David, be better. No. And then she's like, this looks like a nice, comfortable chair, and he's like, okay, and then he starts undressing himself, taking all his stuff off very aggressively. Then he's like, I'm hot. She's like, okay, we'll crack a fucking window in here. Jesus Christ. Then she puts on her vest. She's like, my safety vest, gotta put this on. And then they get in bed.
And then she says good night, and he goes, it could be. Whoa.
I know.
That was a lot. Anyway, so now it is the next morning, and they did not fuck, supposedly. She got her vest off, though, and went under the covers.
So that's the thing. The implication was, if possible, because he was sort of like, he comes back up with, like, milk and croissant, and he's like, he comes back up, and she's like, she didn't say something like, what what happened last night or something. She says something weird where there's an implication there was a misdirect for the audience to be like, oh shit, they did fuck.
Oh, it was because she was mad at him.
Yeah.
And it turned out she was mad because he stayed in the chair. She slept in the bed. He never woke her up to do a bed swap.
Yeah.
But
so
you think he's mad for the fucking.
That he's a good guy.
Yeah. Anyway, so now we're out at the
market. Whoa. He comes up there with milk and croissant, and they eat it. And she's like, this is really, you've got really good milk in France. And then she goes, thank you. I'm glad you think so. I'm glad you like our milk. It's goat milk. And it looks as though he just ejaculated in her face. The look she gives.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be happy with surprised goat milk either. Although I like goat cheese, so I'm sure it'd be fine.
Yeah.
But, milk in general, it's like, if you're going to give me milk, you tell me what kind of milk it is. Because if it's oat milk or almond milk or whatever, I'm not going to want it. So... That's my.
Yeah, it's all, well, here's the thing is that it's like I'm not gonna give you some mystery milk.
Yeah.
But also she liked it. What the hell does she care?
I agree.
It's just to show that she's a fucking provincial little creep from New York in the Bronx who doesn't like nice things. And when she's told what they are, she's like, yuck. Barf.
Well, now we're out at the market with Mrs. Garrett and Small Peter.
Yeah.
He's trying to talk her.
Shopping for ingredients at the open market. And she's like, oh my God, I love it here. And here's the thing. I do love an open air market in France for buying produce because it's like incredibly nice. So then he's carrying all of it, like this enormous box, like farm box of shit, right? And she's just randomly throwing shit on there. And she's like, she picks up scallions and puts so much on his pile, and they're big. They're like leeks. They're huge. They're just
maybe it's like a Top Chef challenge where she has to make it for 100 diners.
Exactly. And so she's like, yeah, I need all these scallions. And she's just panic buying scallions. And which is crazy because then the guy's like, well, you know what? Maybe. And then he shallot explains. He's like, I might suggest shallot.
He basically forces her to.
And she's like, what? She's like, this is crazy. And also, here's the other thing. Shallots would be better in Thermidor. They are an interesting allium that's more interesting than a scallion. And then she's like, but won't it overwhelm their subtle flavor? I only need a tablespoon. So she only needs a fucking tablespoon of whatever allium that she's using, a scallion or a shallot. She doesn't need 50 shallots or 50 scallions. She only needs a tablespoon. It's crazy. And I was just like, what is happening here? And then he's like, well, okay, I have the solution for that too. You cook it in sweet butter. Cooking an onion-like thing in butter. My mind is blown. That's like the simplest fucking thing possible. And then he's like, well, also maybe dill. What about dill?
Yeah, but he offers her his space first. He says, you can cook in my kitchen.
Yeah.
After we close. And then he goes, what about dill? And she's like, we'll get dill. Because now she is a slave to him.
Yeah. But then I wrote down, here's the thing, is it's sweet butter. Okay, so it's not salted butter. But also, that's such a normal cornerstone of all French cuisine, of cooking your onion-like thing, your allium, in butter to make it delicious. Obvious. This is like a foundational level cooking.
Yes.
Well, he hadn't thought of that. That's unbelievable. And then the other, so that's I wrote down. I was like, this is written by people who clearly have either never seen or eaten food.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's not a lot of research gone into this.
Yeah. And then he dill explains. And then he's like, well, okay, so we're going to do all this recipe testing all night long. And then he's like, also, once we're done with that, I'm going to take you out on the town.
That's coming up later. But first we get a montage of Joe and David traveling to Le Mans, ending with a picnic and an old lady with a cat saying bonjour.
So that was the best thing. So, which was it was such a weird, off ramp to like go on, you know, where like the lady comes out, the old lady comes, they're doing a little picnic on the side of the road. Old lady comes out, goes, bonjour. She's holding a cat. And the cat is like uncomfortable and squirming like my cat right now. And he's just like weird. And then the lady she's like, see ya. And then they eat goat cheese. And she's like, this is really good cheese. I kind of got a lot of good cheese. And he's like, I'm so glad you like the cheese we have. It's goat cheese. And again, it looks as though he took a shit in her mouth.
It's like he works for Big Goat.
And then the old lady's cat goes up into the tree. And then they go over to help. And then
why did that lady bring her cat out to an open field?
Yeah. And then the cat's just like hanging out up there. And then they bicker about who can get the cat down better. And he's like, we don't have trees in New York. You don't know how to climb trees. They don't have trees there. What does he think New York is? And then she does this whole thing about like, oh yeah, you know, that's true. We have trees. There were 2 trees on my block. They were nice until, oh yeah, well, one of them died. And then they get into an argument about who can go up the tree better. And then the old lady says, you're a married couple. Because you argue so well. And then the cat never comes down.
No, but he agrees to let her climb the tree. And it's supposed to be like a sexy moment.
Yeah.
Now we're in Small Peter's kitchen, where Mrs. Garrett is calling her sauce her Waterloo.
Yes.
She's made it 7 times. That's why she bought all those scallions and shallots. Keep making it all night like a psycho. Pierre tells her to have faith in herself. She tries folding a napkin like a swan. Why is that part of this?
No, she's like, oh dear, how did Chef Antoine get this to look like a bird? And then it's crazy. And then it ends up on her head. And they do some business with the napkin on her head because he's like, hey, can I see you under there? Like, have faith in yourself. And it's like, I guess maybe if like, you know, this is some like Chef Antoine's teaching you how to do like fine dining or whatever, like the experience, like end to end, not only just the cooking, but also just like the actual formal serving, maybe, but like.
Yeah, no, this is exactly what, this is the perfect example of time meaning nothing because his restaurant has closed for the evening. Everybody's at dinner.
Yeah.
And so what do we want to call that? 10 o'clock? Be generous. They close really early. 10 o'clock? Okay, then Mrs. Garrett's got to make the sauce 7 times. What is that?
4 hours.
Okay, so now we're at 2 a.m. And now she's put the napkin on her head, 2:05.
Okay. And then he's like, I'm gonna take you out. Let's go out and party, whatever. And then she needs to change into her green dress, and they need to go out into the street. So let's say it's, you know, and make her hair wet and dry at the same time. So it's what, 3 a.m?
The earliest it could be, I think, is 3 a.m. Yes.
And she needs to presumably get up early in the morning
to
go do her final exam.
And we do a montage.
Yeah. More accordion music.
Uh-huh. And then we're at Blair's party, which is at night. Are we supposed to say that party is happening at now 4 a.m.?
Who knows? Also, I wrote down, it's like Blair's at this boring ass party, and I don't really even know what the hell's going on, and I don't want to really talk about it. But there is a moment where she's just like, where basically Blair's like, you know what? This trip to Paris was so boring. I could have basically just stayed at home.
Yeah, she just wants some French dick, and
Which
she knows
is
everybody's
what
party, everybody's
I
rich.
thought about this fucking movie. This movie to Paris was so boring, I wish I just stayed home.
You did stay home.
That's the only place I stay.
Then we're finally at David's family's house. There's a lot of French talking, even though Joe doesn't understand them. She thinks they've been really nice to her. David's brother wants to fuck Joe, but not until David's done the dirty. His little brother likes sloppy seconds.
Yeah.
So then they're having the romantic read by the fire moment when David gets a phone call.
Yeah.
Joe
they're looking at photos in front of they're looking at a photo album in front of the fire being all romantic. He puts his arm around her. Then the phone rings. The dad comes in, says, you got to go, go answer the phone. It's your boss on the line.
And then Joe finds the giant photo of young David.
It was like, it it was like a movie marquee. It was so big.
So
and,
big.
And she comes over, looks at it, and then the dad goes, "Sank, David, it sank, 5 or 4, whatever." I can't remember if he said sank or quatre, whatever. And she's like, "Oh." Then puts it down.
She clutches it to her chest like a weirdo first.
And
very
unjust. Puts it down, and then the dad is like, "Just fucked it up. I need to fix this for you. Put it the way you found it." And then in comes David, and the dad have this back and forth about being like, Le Mans, blah, 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 Paris, blah, 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 blah. And so then David says to Joe, "You know, I have to go back. My boss's wife is sick. I got to go back to Paris tomorrow. But my dad."
So random. My boss's wife is sick.
I know. And also, here's the thing. Also, if your wife is in the hospital, just close the bookstore for one day.
Yeah, it's nighttime.
But also the other great thing is that David is like talking to Joan and is like, "You know, like, I got to go back, but you know, you're so passionate about motorbike racing and this Le Mans bike race that happened. That's the most famous car race in the world that's happening tomorrow, that I'm going to make my dad take you." And my dad agreed. And then she's just like, "Listen, I don't want to suck your dad's dick. I want to suck yours." And he's like, "Oh, cool. I was a little worried there."
Yeah. Also, it took them, Le Mans is 3 hours from Paris. It has taken them 3 days to get there.
Because they've been walking the whole time.
So stupid. Anyway, all right. Day 3 with Natoots and GK. He's finished his article, wouldn't you know it? And it's about seeing Paris through the eyes of a fat American girl.
Yeah.
Nat has become the muse of her favorite author, but only for shitty travel agent article telling people.
Yeah.
Hot take here, Paris is lovely. That's what he's got to say.
Yeah. And then Tootie's reading it out loud, and then he refers to them. He's like, "I'm inspired now," and he refers to them as child muses. And then that was when I was like, this movie should be in jail.
It's so weird. Also, the dedication that he plans on writing is to Natalie and Tootie, who lifted me out of the gutter and gave me a new lease on life. And then he keeps going on weirdly and longly, and Natalie's going to masturbate to this forever. He goes, "The milk of new kindness, lifting him out of the purgatory of his wine-darkened soul."
And she's like, "Wine-darkened soul? That's so amazing." And it's like, is it? That's bad, actually.
Yeah, it is bad. I don't know how he didn't kill these 2 girls over 2 days with them in Paris.
I would have.
Now Blair is dressed the color of a damp diaper while browsing through a bookstore, while Man starts stalking her. She's picking up a Hemingway book for Natalie, like Natalie doesn't have a Hemingway book.
Okay, so this is the best part. Because she's just picking it up, putting it down, picking it up, putting it down, picking up a different one, putting it down. And the guy's just like, "You like Hemingway?" And she's like, "It's a gift." And he's like, "Okay. Do you know this thing called Cleveland?"
Cleveland.
And she's like, "Yeah, I know of Cleveland. I've never been to that shitbox town, my Midwestern town. Oh, my daughter lives there."
It looks like he wants to live in Blair's Cleveland.
Yeah, and she's like, "Okay, that's cool." He's like, "I'm gonna go there next year." And she's like, "Why are you telling me this?" She's like, "Okay, sounds cool."
He's like,
"Cool.
Because you're pretty and it looks like you like to get peed on.
Yeah, exactly. And then she's like, "Okay, so yeah, I'll take this one. Okay, let me get the fuck out of here." And he's like, "It's a gift. Just take it. Take it. I don't need it. My wife is in the hospital." And then she leaves.
Kaiser Soze moment. This is the bookstore where David works.
Exactly. And they somehow miss one another. Joe and Blair.
Ships passing in the night.
Exactly. And so then So then they go in. But now, where do we cut to Mrs. Garrett, who is...
Oh, wait, hang on. David brings Joe into the store. We learned that the bookstore's wife has acute appendicitis. I feel like this is important to know.
It's so specific.
It is. Everything with the bookstore seller's wife is very specific. The bookseller is played by Philippe Brizard, who has over 70 IMDb credits, all of them French. Besides this, worked steadily since 69 to 2008. Good run. Let's move on. So now we go to Mrs. Garrett, and
who is spooning like an obscene white liquid all over this lobster. And it looks, honestly, it looks chunky.
Small Peter sauce.
Yeah, exactly. It is small Peter sauce.
Reggie seems really worried for Edna, as though her plot has actual stakes. Her plot doesn't. Her plot has shallots. Chef Antoine tastes the food and looks perplexed for about 45 minutes.
Yeah, that was the second half
great.
of the movie.
I got to like take a break, stretch my legs, not have to pause it. And then he goes, "But it's Bond. It's not Bond. It's very Bond.
Yeah, Bond.
Very Bond. Simon Le Bon.
Simon Le Bon.
It's Dill. It's the Dill.
It's the Dill.
Mrs. Garrett apologizes, but Chef Antoine's really impressed.
No, he's like, c'est formidable.
What?
C'est formidable.
Oh, yes. This is when Mrs. Garrett drops the huge shallot bomb, and he's like, no fucking way.
Are
and
you
she's like,
joking?
Yes fucking way. Sweet butter fucking way.
Maybe Alison Roman stole the shallot pasta from Small Peter.
I wouldn't put it past her at this point. All
and
she
then that's
did
it.
was steal Small Peter's recipe, but she's counting it as a victory, and so I guess we should too. She's so pumped, she kisses Reggie on the lips. Mrs. Garrett's got some D in the big P.
Yeah, well, also, I think that she's been drinking for the past 24 hours, or she's still hungover, still drunk from her late evening romp with Small Peter.
That seems more likely.
Yeah.
Now more Blair, who's the most...
Blair's just walking by herself, enjoying herself. She meets a cute dog. She gives it a treat. That's it.
She's just chilling. She's finding herself, and also finding that French dog. She just walked for like 7 minutes of the movie.
Much like Joe, who seems to spend the rest of this movie walking.
Pierre weirdly shows up at Edna's exam. We're back to that. It was like, why did we have to? Couldn't we just have that all as one scene?
No.
You know, all that is one scene, and then all the Blair walking is one scene.
Yeah, and then Mrs. Garrett gets her little hat. She wears her little hat. Which is weird because it should not fit on her head.
Antoine is acting like sweet butter on lobster is a revelation. It's not. Pierre's being humble. Mrs. Garrett is acting as his agent. Antoine's going to come to the restaurant, endorse Pierre's restaurant if it's anywhere near as good as this little shallot fiasco. Antoine really did a turnaround. Now giving all the credit to Pierre and none to Mrs. Garrett seems a little unfair.
Yeah,
but
she did make it. Here's the thing: if you follow a recipe, that counts as cooking.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, inventing shit is one thing, for sure. Recipe invention is one thing, but also being able to execute, that's the act of cooking. And
then he tells Pierre to be as bold as his sauce, but this sauce, first of all, he calls it his sauce. Mrs. Garrett made it. Second of all, dill and sweet butter and shallots are like not a bold combination. Tasty, sure, but it's not like a spicy, oh, wow.
No. If anything, it is extremely delicate.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of bold.
That was my vibe, too. Anyway, Pierre kisses Mrs. Garrett on the lips. She's gotten a lot of action in this scene.
Yeah.
Mrs. Garrett liked it. She kisses him back. I'm a little grossed out, but it's time to watch Blair walk more.
Yeah.
We're almost through this, Britt.
I know.
So exciting to be done. So Blair's walking.
So then we're back to Blair walking, and Blair is walking, and she comes across a shitty American tourist couple who are posing near a statue, as you said earlier, holding it up or being it itself or something like that, right? And and he's like, the guy's like, I want to get something to eat. Let's go to McDonald's because I can't eat any more of this fucking French bread. It is too hard on my teeth.
Yeah, murder on his teeth.
What does he smoke meth? Why is his teeth so weak?
He's American. He smokes meth. It's implied.
Yeah.
Another French.
And then some other dude comes over.
Yeah,
he's like, you're American. I'm Chad or whatever.
He's Ken Barnett, Chicago, played by Joris Stoyek, who was actually born in England, and all of his other credits are him playing Russians.
Good for him.
Dr. Pirogov in Blacklist Redemption, Russian porter in Baron Dread, Russian official in Madam Secretary, Dmitri in The Americans. This guy works all the time, and he's always a Russian, even though he's British, playing a guy from Chicago here.
Is that Russian face? Ruski face?
Ruski face, that's it. Stop taking their job skis. He's done a lot of American miniseries, 5. And he's only got 30 credits and a basically unpronounceable name, which again is Joris Stoyek. S-T-U-Y-C-K.
Is it J-U-R-I-S?
No, it's J-O-R-I-S.
So it's Yurs.
Yurs. And then the last name is S-T-U-Y-C-K.
Stoyek. Yurs Stoyek. I only know that probably the pronunciation of that because I'm half Latvian. And I had a relative named Yurs. So it's
I love
like
the sigh before you said I had a relative named Yurs.
It's because I couldn't remember how I was related to him. He's like my aunt's brother. And I was like, I don't know exactly what that is.
Sigh. Anyway, the guy keeps pushing, but Blair's really enjoying walking by herself. Besides, this guy is not French, and we know her rule: French dick only.
Yeah.
He also said the Americans couples talk of French bread got his taste buds going, and will Blair join him for a loaf?
Loaf. Baguette?
You want to join me for a loaf, babe? Join me for a loaf, babe.
A whole loaf.
We're back at the bookstore. We learned that Ernest Hemingway used to sleep in a corner of the bookstore. Cool. Joe seems really into the bookstore.
Joe is learning the lesson that books matters more than race cars.
See, I didn't think that it was books. I thought it was French culture. This was an example of her falling in love with France.
I totally, it's the falling in love with it, being so resistant to begin with, being like, the only thing that I like about this going to this stupid place is this one thing, this one racing thing. That's the only thing I care about. And then she falls in love with everything. She falls in love with the guy. She falls in love with the books. She falls in love with the countryside and the fucking goat cheese and the goat milk and the croissant and the getting the cat out of the tree. It's like she was like, I like this. I like this.
Yes. Joe actually had the creepy guy actually had a dream about Joe in the bookstore last night. Or was it the creepy guy or was it David?
David.
Oh, okay.
The creepy guy left.
Oh, yes, that's right.
He had to go check in on his sick wife.
That's right. The acute, whatever. So David had a dream of Joe in the bookstore last night, standing about there, smiles. Joe smiles, probably because she's thinking about how Blair had a dream about how she got railed, and it's funny that this French guy dreams of her standing there still in a bookstore. Meanwhile, all of Blair's dreams are getting fucked by a parade of French dicks. Anyway, So Joe imagines him in the Bronx. And he's getting beaten up, and suddenly he's in an ambulance.
It was like I'm trying to imagine you in the Bronx. I feel like you probably have a broken arm. Nah, a broken leg. Nah, a broken arm and a leg. Nah, you've been up in an ambulance. And it's just this and he's he's cupping her face while she's being like, yeah, you're gonna get if you come home with me, you're gonna get seriously injured. Sorry, dude. It's going to be bad, but...
Yeah, but Joe feels at home here, even though there's no basketball and the burgers are terrible, and David doesn't want her to leave, so she's torn. Is she going to miss
baseball? There's no baseball. There's no basketball. It's not baseball.
Sorry, I wrote baseball. I said basketball.
That's how a sports expert you are.
Mm-hmm. Now we're in Mrs. Garrett's room with the Toots and Blair and Blatoodly, we want to call them.
Yeah,
Blair,
and it's
Natalie.
like Blair's like, I had a great time. And they're like, and Natalie's like, so who'd you fuck? How many dicks did you suck? Ah. And Blair's like, surprisingly, not a single one. I spent this whole time basically learning how to jerk myself off.
Yeah, Mrs. Garrett's like wiping cum out of her bouffant, being like, yeah, me too.
Exactly.
The Toots are gonna miss Paris, but their trip seemed like their story seemed like painfully the worst.
Hanging out with a man who doesn't like them, hanging out with a drunk old man, washed up novelist who's mean to them for 4 days.
Yeah, if you had to choose one of the 4 plots to do, which one would you choose?
Obviously, the motorcycle one.
I think I'd pick Mrs. Garrett's. I mean, you get the dick, and you don't have to travel a lot, and you get a lot of cooking done. So you get to eat a lot of good stuff.
True.
As opposed to just being surprised by goat products everywhere you go.
Yeah, and then, Mrs. Garrett's like very upset. She's like, I'm very worried about Joe. She promised to come back.
Yeah. I would be too. She's planning on getting back from Omaha. It took her fucking 4 days to get there. But I'm gonna get back within a couple hours. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Anyway, so then we cut to Joe is making out with David in a park, right?
Yes.
And so
actually we're at the airport and everybody is still panicked about the lack of Joe.
Right.
And then keeps saying she'll show up. Mrs. Garrett snaps at her. I love when people snap at Tootie. And Tootie's starting to look just like her mom, Chip Fields.
Well, anyway, so they're like, she promised. She never breaks a promise. She promised to come. She'll be here. Mrs. Garrett's just like, they're just circling the fucking drain on this, like, well, maybe she won't. I don't know. I'm really worried about it. Like, what girls? Why did you let this happen? Blah, blah, blah. And then we cut to Joe making out David in a park. And it's like, uh-oh, have we lost Joe for real? Is Joe going to move to Paris? No.
No, they have she wants to fix his bike one more time. He's like, you're going to miss your flight. They have a heartfelt goodbye. Yeah. Taking way too long considering everybody else is just at the airport. Yeah. Joe does some decent acting and cries on camera. The score swells. Back at the airport, everyone's freaking out still. Blair's dealing with the luggage curbside.
I don't know. Is she one of those travelers who's like, okay, listen, I need to deal with the luggage. It's my favorite thing. I get obsessive. I need to deal with it because I don't think that you can figure this out. This is my task when we get to the airport is checking with it's like Tootie's the boarding pass person. Blair is the luggage person.
Yes. And then Blair, who's curbside, sees Joe and David making out and looks so turned on by it.
Yeah, she was like,
have you ever? No, I'm not even going to go there. I've been with guys in the past who've been very turned on watching me be with women. And it felt like that was Blair was being like, she's mine, but it's really hot watching her with a dude every once in a while.
Well, yeah, no, that's the thing. It's like, wife sharing. It's like, I just get really turned on when I get to watch you get fucked.
And
then Joe, they say goodbye, they kiss, and then Blair,
who was that?
Over, and Joe's really upset, and Blair's like, okay, so how big was his cock? Because I could see the outline of it in his pants while you were kissing him because of his enormous erection. So tell me, how big was it, and was it uncut?
Obviously
and Joe's like, I don't want to talk about it, but it was huge and amazing, and I miss it already.
Then Blair presents Joe to the gang, who are delighted to see her. Tootie makes some crack about her not calling anyone, like they had phones back then. And Mrs. G pretends that she wasn't worried, and then screams at her. Classic Mrs. Garrett.
Where were you?
Everyone wants to know about Joe's adventure. Blair covers for her, which was nice. I really like that moment. Mm-hmm. Mrs. Garrett goes to find out what movie they're showing on the plane. Is that how that works?
I guess. I don't know. 1982. I don't remember.
Can't you just sit there and wait for them to tell you in the plane?
No.
We get a hilarious callback to the time differences gag. That was so fun.
Oh.
Nancy McKeon actually thinks she's in a movie and thanks Blair for being a decent human.
Yeah.
They're clearly going to finger bang each other in their seats.
Yeah.
And the movie on the plane is Who's Killing the Great Chefs of Europe? Isn't that hilarious? Natalie still has gum and hand wipes from the flight over. Joe and Blair might need those hand wipes.
Yeah.
So they board their flight. Blair predicts they'll see each other again. Joe and David. They do
because of the way that he looked at her. That was not a goodbye.
And how sad was it when you're going up on the escalator and you see him watching through the window and Joe doesn't see? I actually thought that was effective.
That was effective. It was a little creepy. I will say that.
It was creepy, but there have been times when I knew I was saying goodbye to somebody forever, or at least for like a couple of years.
Yeah.
On an airplane, and that is some of the saddest memories I have.
Completely. So, oh my God. Yeah.
Just watching somebody go off. I don't even blame David. I feel like that was sad.
It was sad.
And then some more terrible ADR as the flight takes off. Peekskill's gonna seem real peaked after Paris. Then they sing some garbage song.
I don't know what song that was.
Me neither.
I don't know why they were singing. Can you imagine sitting next to Mrs. Garrett and 4 little girls who were singing on an airplane?
What a nightmare.
That would be, and what if they sang the whole time?
They probably did. They're the worst.
Yeah. I can't believe we got through that.
Me neither. That was an irredeemable 90 minutes of the Facts of Life. I am so excited to watch normal Facts of Life with laugh track and it being done in 22 minutes. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm just so excited for life to get back to normal.
Yeah, me too. With our new normal of, COVID-19 constantly,
Yes, there is no new normal, but with the world being in such unsafe, terrifying space that it is these days, the last thing I need is for my Facts of Life girls to go to Paris and be awful.
Yeah. But and also, so this is what's so perplexing about this in particular, right? You and I make fun of this show a lot because they notoriously never go anywhere. They always start in the cafeteria, end up in the cafeteria. The cafeteria is turned into a gymnasium. The cafeteria is turned into, a workout class. The cafeteria is turned into a place where they're having a dance or something. The cafeteria is used as a Cousin Jerry and Blair Warner, comedy hour. It's like they never leave the cafeteria ever. And then the one time that they go somewhere.
When they go to New York, terrible things happen too. But
the one time when they go somewhere, which is exotic and lovely, and they got the fucking budget for this show to actually shoot there, they shit all over the bed.
Yes, they shit the bed. That's what they did.
And then slept in it. It's like it's such a weird missed opportunity.
It is. It's really bad.
I honestly, I think half of this notebook is gone and just devoted to my angry thoughts about this movie.
But it's behind us now, and that feels like such a weight off my shoulders. It must you as well.
I mean, yes. At this point, it feels like an enormous weight is off my shoulders.
Great. I don't really have anything else to add except that I am sorry for anybody who actually watched this episode so that they could hear this podcast.
Don't watch it. Don't watch, please. This is like The Ring. It's like you're gonna get sucked into the TV. You're gonna get the Ring virus and you're gonna die of nightmares from this movie. Don't watch it.
Well, that seems like as succinct ending as possible. All right, so guys, we're coming up on season 4. So get excited. Get your season 4 hats ready.
Okay.
And we will be back with you soon. Thanks for watching. We love you.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.